Welcome to Fresh Set of Downs, PAFootballNews.com's weekly look at high school football from around the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. From Philly across to the Burgh, Mansfield down to York, and all areas in between. Whether you're a Bulldog, a Mustang, a Crusader, or a millionaire, hosts Bruce Badgley and Darryl Daniel got you covered. There's just one question. Are you ready?
Hey, and we're back. Bruce Badgley, Darryl Daniel, Coach Joe Mays. It's Fresh Set of Downs. Brand new week once again here. It's hard for me to believe that we're on the downside of the regular season.
Yeah, that's crazy.
5 weeks in the books. It's like we just did our preseason stuff.
Right. I was talking to some of the young guys, some of the seniors, and they're like, "Wait, this is game 6." We're in game 6 already, you know. So it's going by fast. So I mean, before you know it, we'll be talking about playoff football. So.
Well, I mean, it's not a bad thing to talk about playoff football, but it's sure awful nice to enjoy the regular season. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, we've had a lot of great games to enjoy so far. We've had a lot of great shows here. I mean, we've had a lot of great games on Friday Night Live and that. But, Joe, how was your week? I mean, obviously, you're in the same boat. I mean, this season is just flying by, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Like Darryl said, Week 6, that's crazy, but when you think about it, basically the football season started in August, at least for the players and the coaches. They've been going since, I think, August 6th is when that heat acclimatization started. Yeah. So, I mean, really, they're getting ready to start their third month. And, you know, Week 6, it's tough to be thinking that in only the end of September, but here we are. And like you guys said, soon enough, we'll be talking about the playoffs. Second season is coming. You know, a month from now, I think we get ready to play that last regular season game.
That is just crazy. But, you know, and involving that, Darryl, I mean, obviously you're involved with these guys training, you know, in the off season or what have you. But what's some of the advice that you can give to some of these players, coaches, families, you know, for these players? I mean, obviously around this time of year, you know, they're starting to get the dings. They're starting to get wore down a little bit. What are some of the suggestions that you've got for these guys that, you know, you tell the guys that you train?
Well, injury prevention is huge. A lot of times guys get through the season and, you know, everybody's like, oh, you got to toughen up, you little dings and stuff, which is true, you know, but you still have to take care of your body. There's different ways you can do that. Rest and recovery is very important. Some of the ways you can do that, I'm partnered with a company, Restore, where they have the Normatec pads. You do the cryotherapy where you're sitting there for 3 minutes. It gets about 212 degrees below zero. It's a very good recovery. It cools the core from the inside out. They have all these different things. You have IVs you can do to help replenish the fluids in your body that you lose during a game. But you have to do cold tubs. You have to ice. You have to treat. There's TENS machines, different things you got to do. And stretching. A lot of these guys, I watch a lot of different teams during the game. Some of them don't warm up properly, in my opinion. Or they don't do enough to warm up. You got to warm up properly. You got to stretch. You got to take care of your body. So when you go, it's almost like a boxer. When you see boxers come in the ring, they're pouring out sweat because they're loose and they're warmed up. If you're about to play a game, guys, and you're not sweating before a game, that's not a good thing. You know, I know some guys in the NFL. I saw something the other day. Randy Moss was like, deers or something, you would say don't stretch. Jaguars don't stretch. Well, I mean, some people are freak of natures where they can do that, but us normal human beings, we need to warm up properly and stretch. And then as far as lifting, a lot of people sometimes they go that hard in the off season, and then when they get to the regular season, they don't lift anymore. You still got to maintain your strength. Obviously, you're not going to lift as heavy, so you'll do less sets, higher reps with lighter weights. So you still got to be able to do something during the season to take care of your body to maintain that strength. Obviously, you're not going to be doing 3 sets of 4, maxing out anymore, but you still need to do some type of things to maintain or stay close to at least 75%, 80% of what you did in the off season. So those things are very important. So guys, you got to take care of your bodies. You got to work out properly.
How about diet? I mean, what should these guys be doing? I mean, as far as breakdown of, like, you know, protein, carbs, fats, water intake. I mean, staying hydrated.
Right. There is such a thing as I'm sure everyone knows is overhydrating. You got to drink enough water, but you can't drink too much water. You got to stay away from the soda, stay away from the sugars, because all those things do is break down the muscle. So the vegetables, the protein, things of that nature. But the sugars, the ice cream, you just got to stay away from that stuff because you're putting your body through such a rigorous season and such a taxing sport that you have to maintain. You got to eat the bananas. You got to do things like that.
Right.
You know, the fruits and the vegetables, the waters. You know, some of the sugary, like, you know, Gatorade's okay, but there's certain things you can't have too much sugar in your body. But then there is such thing as good sugar. So you got to be able to have that fine balance, but you can't overdo it. A lot of these guys are young, their metabolism is high, so they can recover from that. But to be an elite athlete, you got to make sure you're eating right, eating healthy, getting the right type of carbohydrates in your system for that energy.
Good advice there from a guy who really knows it. I mean, you played pro ball, you played obviously Division I college ball. You do this for a living. I mean, train athletes for a living. So good advice there from Darryl Daniel. Obviously, follow Darryl on Twitter. He gives a lot of great advice out on Twitter all the time. We starting on the games that we worked on last week, or actually Friday Night Live. We had a very entertaining game between Pottsville and Glen Mills. Pottsville jumped out early. It was a very interesting start to the game. Glen Mills actually had about a 2.5-hour drive up there. I think it was the first game that I ever saw that there were no fans or cheerleaders from a team.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Unfortunately, it was that long of a trip for Glen Mills. But they put up a pretty good fight. Pottsville, though, has some really talented guys.
Yeah.
And they jumped out to a quick lead there. Glen Mills came back in the third quarter. Ultimately, Pottsville prevailed. But, boy, they're going to do well in District 11 up there. They're going to do well in that Schuylkill League. I mean, that is a landmine of a league up there. Not only do you have Pottsville, you got an undefeated Jim Thorpe, North Schuylkill, Lee Heighton. I mean, that is just a landmine. And not forgetting Blue Mountain, who's traditionally a powerhouse up there. So, but I give Pottsville a really good opportunity to move forward, not only to go for a conference title, but to get to the District 11 playoffs. And I know that it's a little bit, I know they're in 4A and they don't take that many teams, but I like their chances. What do you think, Darryl?
Right. Well, we talked about it a little bit last week about them getting out. You know, Glen Mills, of course, has the athletes, but if Pottsville gets out in front of them, we know what would do to the game. And so, you know, you put a team like Glen Mills who maybe likes to run the ball a little bit more in positions to, now they have to throw to come back. And that played right in Pottsville's hands, and they played a great game. Yeah.
And unfortunately, Glen Mills were a little hamstrung there, too. They had one of their starting quarterback actually was ill and actually wasn't able to play. But have we got Mr. Splain on the line yet?
He is calling in, so I'll let you know as soon as he's here.
Okay. Well, we'll get started on review of some of the games. I think one of the big games was actually a clash of undefeated State College and Chambersburg.
Right.
But State College, they really showed, their mettle. They really prevailed in that. Chambersburg, you have to give them a lot of credit for the fact that they're playing a meaningful game this late in the season.
Right.
Kudos to them. Obviously, they've got a landmine-filled conference schedule as well. State College and all the other, big guys over there in the Mid-Penn. What do you think about that game, Darryl?
Yeah, State College is about to start to get in the meat of their schedule, too. So, but, I mean, we knew going into the running back up there at State College was going to have a game. And we had a good feeling because a lot of people have picked State College to win the conference. So they didn't disappoint. They looked well. They played well on defense. They were in control of the game. The score, 20, but I think the game wasn't even really that close.
Yeah. Correct. The one score that just stood out for me last week was Mifflin County beating Shippensburg. Mifflin County, a program really trying to get, they've got a new coach this year. They're trying to get some traction with that program. An undefeated Shippensburg team comes in, and they beat him 26-21. Right. I mean, what kind of a victory does that mean to a team like that, Darryl?
Right. Like you said, an up-and-coming program, you're just trying to, like you said, you're just trying to find your way. So a team, Shippensburg, has been to the playoffs, I mean, pretty much every year. Very consistent team. So, when you're trying to get your program turned around, Mason County, I think a couple weeks lost to Northeastern a couple weeks ago. So, to get a big win like this against a team like Shippensburg is a lot for your program. So it's something you can build on. Definitely something you can build on. So, and it's one of those games where, you wonder if Shippensburg would maybe looking past this team, overlook this team. So we talk a lot about
long drive. I mean, from Chambersburg all the way up there. I mean, that's from one end of the conference to the other. And thankfully, we got Billy Splain with us finally. Billy, how you doing?
What's going on, gentlemen?
Great. Just going through some of the games there, Billy. One of the ones actually in the West there that was a key game for you was Aliquippa and Beaver Falls. Aliquippa kind of took it to them there.
Well, we talked about that last week, and I kind of figured that's the way it was going to go. But they're just that good. Aliquippa is they look so good. They're one of the better looking teams I've ever seen. I mean, they are just balanced all the way around. Their offensive and defensive line is playing angry. If you guys remember, last year they lost in the WPIAL championship 2-0.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Their theme this year has been 2-0. Their coach has reminded them every single day of that score, and that defense has just played lights out.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then we talked, last week, and I think we'll see in our rankings there. DeLone Catholic, they were one of the higher scoring teams in the state. They came out on top over Littlestown. Billy, what was your take on that game?
The Lone Catholic, again, they just keep rolling. They did have one setback, but I wouldn't have called it a key game. Littlestown wasn't much of a challenge for them, but they just keep rolling. They're looking good. Their quarterback is a really good quarterback, and they've got a pretty solid line. I mean, they're not big, but they're good.
Yeah, it turned into, there was a key game in not only with a ranked 6A team, but also in Lancaster, Lebanon. We talked a little bit about Manheim Township and Cocalico. I'm going to ask Joe this question because he's Mr. LL. There was, and Darryl can probably, verify this too. There hasn't been one coach that I've talked to in the LL League, at least in Section 1, that's been a fan of this, flip between Section 2 being a one of their non-conference games. Right. I mean, what was your take on that one, Joe? Manheim Township and Cocalico.
Well, you're exactly right when you say you'd be hard-pressed to find a coach from either section that wanted this crossover to happen. And, you're seeing the best of the best play each other, but the coaches know that it takes a toll on the kids. And we saw that a lot on Wilson's end. We saw it a few years ago when Wilson and Manheim Central were voluntarily playing each other. But Manheim Township and Cocalico, a hard-fought game, but Manheim Township has showed that they are definitely a team to reckon with this year. They dispatched Cocalico, who's supposed to be in competition with Manheim Central in that Section 2 race. And despite, allowing the Eagles to get back in the game late, Township controlled most of that game and looked good doing so. They've got a high-flying offense. Harrison Kirk is playing very well, just a shade under 1,000 yards passing. Mm-hmm. They have a three-back rotation in the backfield, and they've got
what Darryl's been saying all year about those guys.
The MD brothers and company on defense, on lots of underclassmen. I think almost the entire defense comes back next year, and they have to be the favorite in Section 1, and just so happens Wilson goes to play them this week.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah. But, those kind of games, Darryl, I mean, Joe talked about, taking a toll on you. I mean, a lot of these coaches, I mean, there's only so much emotion and probably so much physicality in a team for a 10-game season. Mm-hmm. Throwing this kind of game in there, right smack dab before you start a conference schedule, how does that affect the team?
It could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. Some of these kids, the good thing about it, they're young, they don't know the difference. So, I mean, every week, like with a schedule like that, going into Township knows with the schedule they play every year, every week we got to be ready to play. So, I'm sure Coach Evans is telling those guys, we're not a secret anymore. People know we're here. So, guys are going to be ready to play them every week. They got Wilson this week. That's going to be a great game. They beat Wilson last year, obviously, and then the game's at home this year against Wilson. So
again. Third time in 11 months.
Right.
Wow.
So they know what they have. they're going to be ready to go. It's going to be a very interesting game to see if Wilson's going to be able to slow down that 3-back attack. And like you talk about Harry Kirk and just, I mean, they're just a solid team, and that doesn't make too many mistakes.
Out west there, Billy, Penn Hills kind of had their way with Kiski area.
Yeah, that's another one we talked about last week. And Hollis Mathis and Daquan Hardy, and they are loaded. They're starting to make believers out of me. Year after year, they have some good talent there, and they just, they don't seem to be able to put it all together. But I think this is the year they put it all together. I'm really looking forward to down the stretch. I don't see anything that's going to stop them from going undefeated. And likewise with Gateway, I think we're looking at a huge battle coming up at the end of the season.
Yeah, that is going to be one heck of a game. Another say what game for me was when I woke up on Sunday and saw that Nazareth had beat Bethlehem Catholic.
Yeah.
I mean,
I saw. I was like, am I missing something?
Right. I mean, is that right? I literally, I had to check, they always say you got to check 2 sources.
Right.
I checked 3 sources to make sure it was right. That just was the shocker for me. Obviously, we talked about Mifflin County's win, but I think Nazareth's win over Bethlehem Catholic.
Right. A highly ranked team. And again, we tell these guys every single week, you got to, especially dealing with high school football players and kids, you got to be ready to play every single week, because at any point in time, anything can happen. Obviously, there's some games where there's no chance, but when the level of talent is not that far off, you got to be ready to play. And that Nazareth, that's a great example. So I think what that does, that's is that a eye opener for Bethlehem Catholic, or is that telling us, well, they're vulnerable, there's something there that may affect them down the road, or it's just a hiccup, but we'll find out here soon.
Yeah, what did Denny Green say? I mean,
they are
what they
are
are.
we thought they were. So.
But in that case, they aren't who we thought they were in that particular loss. Billy, I mean, your take on the Malvern Prep victory over Berks Catholic?
Well, Berks Catholic, God bless them, they've been going through a gauntlet to start the season, and they got through it. Now, I remember last week Darryl said something about, I think you made the call, Darryl, that they were missing a few athletes over at Malvern, so you went with Berks on that one.
Yeah. I was surprised after watching the game. They just couldn't stop. They didn't do a great job tackling in the secondary. Unfortunately, that was something that they work on often. But they 2 or 3 blown assignments, which result in big plays, and I think there was 2 or 3 tackles that resulted in big plays. So that's something that Berks Catholic does a great job of usually. But they didn't tackle well that game. They know there's a lot of things they got to fix to be better. But I mean, with Quincy Watson out the game, and number 10, Lonnie was able to play, so he had a couple big plays, but I mean, a lot of blown covers, but the quarterback, he was on fire. He was so accurate. He didn't make too many mistakes, so that's what kind of took over the game.
Yeah, Lonnie Smith, Lonnie's a good player. I watched film of him several times this year, and I'm really impressed with the guy. I mean, he plays really good. And, Malvern Prep's got a couple of guys down there that can play some ball.
Right.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And,
let's give a shout out to our producer, Joe. Joe Mays. Boy, I'll tell you what, the graphics are phenomenal. We've got the film clips this week. I can't say enough about our production guy there, Joe Mays. Great job, Joe.
I said better every week. That's the goal, right?
Right, I guess. Right. And last game we're going to cover here quickly is just Middletown and Steel High. Boy, that's kind of a backyard brawl over there in the mid-pen. Middletown coming out on top, 48-40. That was one heck of a game there, Darryl.
Yeah, well, we talked about it. We said it was going to be a high-scoring game, or Middletown was going to get stops on defense, but a big-time back-and-forth game. But I had a feeling that Middletown was going to be able to pull that out. But, again, we talked about it also last week. A lot of these teams are playing these big-time games early.
Right.
So they get into their conference play. Some conferences are tougher than others. It prepares them for the conference play, but the bigger thing is it prepares them for the district play. So a lot of these teams are tested. And then, like we said about Nazareth and Bethlehem Catholic, some teams are getting exploited also, and we get to see who they really are. So it'll be interesting. Again, this is a great game, but we know Steel High, what are they, 2A now, and then Middletown is 3A. So it helps both of those teams. In a way, Middletown gets to see some more athleticism after playing Bishop McDevitt. So it'll be interesting moving forward to see what happens.
Yeah, it really is going to be interesting. All right, I guess we're ready to move into the rankings quickly here before we get to our guest. Billy, unless you had something else to add?
Let's give Mifflin County a big shout out. They're not very big on the win column in the last 2 years, and they knocked off Shippensburg.
Yeah, no, I tell you what, it was great. The last 2 years I've seen that team over at the Mid-Penn Media Day. Got to meet the coaches. You know, you really root for a program like that. You know, they have some things that are a bit stacked against them as a program because they cover such a wide area out there. They're the only, I guess, school in the county, obviously. Sometimes it's difficult to A, get the numbers, and B, get the, you know, the group in there because, yeah, they have such a distance, you know, for the kids and the families to get back and forth to practice and what have you. Right. So for them to really, you know, kind of a signature win for the year, you know, hopefully they can build on that. That's what you always wish for.
Definitely. Your programs like that, you wish for, you know, like you said, far away, kids driving and 20, 30 minutes just to get to school, things of that nature. So, like Billy said, hats off to them. Yeah,
dedication with a capital D there.
Yeah, definitely.
So, all right, Billy, we got time to do some rankings before we talk to our guest?
Well, I thought we were going to go into some memorable moments and handle the rankings.
Oh, memorable moments. Yeah, okay. Why don't we? I'm sorry, that's my mistake there. I think there was an item that you know, Darryl has a little bit inside information, but it was Cade Berbula becoming the all-time passing leader there in York County.
Yeah,
he's a good kid. I got to meet him this summer. He's a tremendous guy.
Right, he was really, really excited about that, and we're only at the halfway point of the season, so. You know, I told him go ahead and destroy that record and just keep on put it out of reach. So he's excited. Obviously, he's committed to Delaware. So it's a great opportunity. They have a good team. You know, they had the one loss, kind of an upset, the Red Lion.
Right.
Yeah, he's looking good. They got back on track, I think, with a win this past week. So I mean, he's doing well.
Billy, what were some of the other milestones that you saw come across the wires this week?
Well, we all know how tough it was for Central Dauphin last week, and they pulled out their win and got their number 400 for their program. So hats off to Central Dauphin on win number 400. And finally, Southern Columbia. What a program they have. 500 wins now. This was their 500th win this week. And their streak is at 66. So if they can keep it rolling one more year, the state record is in danger. And this weekend, they play game number 700 for their program.
Wow, amazing. And that's a 2A school, too, you know. Yeah. I mean, that's just not a juggernaut, you know, 6A program there. That is absolutely tremendous.
They own championship weekend.
Right. Any other highlights you want to talk about, Billy?
Gavin Henry up at Union City. Gavin Henry in District 9. He became the all-time rusher for Union City. He has 3,149 yards. He passed Matthew Webb, who had 3,131 for the Bears. And that's a big accomplishment. They had a big ceremony for him yesterday at the school. They made a big banner to hang at the stadium. So that's a pretty special moment for him.
Pretty special moment for really any player to have an all-time, any kind of record. Doesn't matter, you know, what it is. So that's
Union City is one of the, it's a very small school up in District 10. So for them to have something like that happen, and they don't have a great record over the history of the program. So this is a very big deal for them at Union City. Very big deal.
Yeah, and the good thing, and just a shout out to all of the schools out there, make sure you keep us informed here at PE Football News of any of those types of records that any of your players are, you know, about to break or about to set. anything to do with any highlights. I know, Billy, you've got all your accolades that you send out, your awards, on every week, Keystone Club, on any number of different categories there. So keep us informed. Tag us on Twitter. Love to hear from you at pafootballnews.com on anything to do with milestones and records. Still have a couple minutes yet before we get with our guest for tonight, who's going to be Rick O'Brien from the Philadelphia Inquirer. I mean, Rick is a guy that, I just respect the heck out of. Got to meet Rick last year at the state championship games, and boy, he was just does a tremendous job there down in the Philadelphia area.
Rick's my man. I'll tell you what. When we started this, when I took over Pennsylvania Football News this summer, it was a last-minute thing, and Rick was crucial in helping us with the District 12 information on the website. He was very important to helping us set up the District 12 schedules, and every week he'll get a hold of me and he'll let me know, hey, we got this one wrong, we have to fix this schedule. So Rick's a great guy, and I really enjoy my time. Whenever we go down to Hershey, Rick's always there, and he's just a stand-up guy, and he's a great guy, and I really enjoy talking to Rick. So hopefully we get him on the phone here soon.
Yeah, I know that, and along with Rick, I think that PA Football News is getting a lot of support from a lot of the print media around the state. I know that I won't name any names, but I know that a lot of them go to you directly there, Billy, when they've got a question or they need to get some records or data, whatever like that. You're the go-to guy, aren't you?
Yeah, well, we try to keep that up to date on our website. We're going to remodel it after the season's over, but you can go to westernpafootball.net, and we have all the records. 300.
Okay, and I think on the phone we've got Rick O'Brien. Rick, you there?
I'm here live, yes.
You're here live? Well, fantastic, Rick. Thanks for joining us right now. All I have to say, you're one of the ones that I look up to and have for some time in your coverage of high school sports, not only football, but everything down there in the Philadelphia area. And it was a real thrill for me to finally get to meet you for the first time there during the state championships last year. You're Ozone Inc. on Twitter there. Why'd you pick that Twitter name?
I'm going to have to give it credit to one of my editors, but O'Brien and O apostrophe, so the Ozone, so it's the play off of my last name. And then INQ is for the Philadelphia Inquirer, so it's Ozone, play off O'Brien, O apostrophe, and then for the Inquirer, INQ.
Oh, that's good. That's really interesting.
But that's what it is, yes.
Everybody has a story about their Twitter handle. I've never asked Darryl about why he has his Twitter handle that way. Maybe we'll make an entire show out of that sometime. But anyway, Rick, we're finally starting to get some of your teams down there in Philadelphia playing amongst themselves and playing teams here in the state of PA. Why don't you talk a little bit about maybe some of the teams that have exceeded expectations thus far, and maybe some that haven't in this kind of preseason schedule?
Yeah, I guess the big story is that I don't know if too many have exceeded expectations, but it's kind of been like the top 6 or 7, or maybe 10, but the rest you could just all bunch together. And I do a top 25 for southeastern PA, and outside of Archbishop Wood, even maybe 2-2 is my number 9 team. Commonwealth is 5-0. They're my number 10 team. But after that, it's including Haverford High and struggling LaSalle right now, 1-3. It's really a crapshoot as far as who's the best team. So it's really been the top dogs: number 1 St. Joe's Prep, number 2 Coatesville, 3 Malvern Prep, the 2 Downingtown East, Downingtown West, North Penn, Imhotep, and then Garnet Valley. I would say, are like the top 8 teams, and the rest, while they have decent records, they haven't really played. No one has really stood out or really beaten anybody of a high degree of difficulty. So I would say there aren't any real surprise teams down here yet.
Darryl Daniel's got a question for you, Rick.
Okay.
Imhotep, how are they looking this year? I know they had the 2 losses, but those 2, I think they were 2 out-of-state teams. But are they the same team? Because I know they got the quarterback over there that transferred in from, I think, North Penn. But how are they looking this year? I'll be down there Saturday to see them play.
You're going to check out them play John Bartram.
Yeah.
I think that they're still, like as you said, even though they played the tough competition, with the 2 losses, I still don't think, I think with what they lost from last year, they're not the same team along the offensive line or their explosiveness. I mean, they have Tyreek Smith, of course, who's a great multi-purpose player, but overall, and their defense is good and all, but I don't think they're the 4A team that they were last year, like that they'll cruise to the state final or possibly win it. But I mean, I could be wrong. If the 4A, it's competition, you guys would know that better. Across the state is better, but no, I don't think this team is as good as it was last year. They did bring in Steve DePaul. You're right, and he's a pretty good quarterback, and they have Tyke Smith, as I said, and they do have some.
How's Youssef looking this year? Youssef Terry.
Youssef Terry is a very good wideout.
Right, okay.
We know he's headed to Baylor. He's very good, and
It's Billy.
Say that again.
This is Billy, Rick.
Billy, how are you?
I'm good. Hey, the loss of Omar Spates, do you think that was a big difference for them?
Yeah, I think it was. I think definitely he was an anchor on that one side of the line for them. So that was a pretty big, even though it's just the one player, that's a huge loss for them, that a team, they kind of got hit a little bit on defense in terms of graduation, that was somebody that they were counting on. So I think that was a big hit, losing Omar Spates to Northeastern. And of course, he transferred to an Oregon school. But I think that was a big hit for them.
And then the burning question that everybody's trying to find out is your thoughts on St. Joe Prep.
St. Joe's Prep, just 2 games under its belt, but it came from behind to beat both teams. And the most recent was Our Lady of Good Counsel from Maryland, which was, supposed to be very good, and they did it. So they have shown some resilience against 2 pretty good teams. And then their first game, they were, they trailed 13-7. Trying to think, was that the St. Peter's Prep game? I think they trailed, they beat St. Peter's, but their opener, they trailed 13-7. And I'm trying to help me out, Billy. Do you know who the name of the team they played in the opener? But they trailed 13-7 when Lightning hit. That's why they're only 2-0 now. But they have a stacked lineup. Their only question mark is their defensive line. They've had to replace all of their defense, but they're so talented on offense. Just the 2 running backs, Marquez Mason and Colby Burrell, are back, and then they have at least like 4 wideouts that can catch the ball. And then everybody knows about this up-and-coming sophomore quarterback, Kyle McCord, who's already drawing Division I interest, and I think has a few offers already. So offensively, and they brought back most of their line, so offensively they could be right there with that high-powered Coatesville should those 2 meet in the state final. It's defensively where they need to iron things out, and they've given up 27 points or so in each game, and now they have LaSalle coming up on Friday night at Widener University. Right. So we'll have to see how good LaSalle, which is 1-3, and they finally got on winning track by beating Harvard School. But yeah, St. Joe's Prep is loaded, and they just have to figure things out a little bit on defense. That's a question mark along their front line. But other than that, they're very good at linebacker again, and the linebacking core is very good, and they're strong in the secondary. So they're fine there. And so they're only trying to find their way really on the defensive line. But, I mean, I think if the first two games from now on, including LaSalle, it's hard to see anybody beating them until they unless you've got a, and now, of course, they're out and they go a different half of the bracket to try to make it back to the state final. But they're very, they're top notch. One of their better teams, if not, some people say maybe their best team.
Did you have
Liam Johnson in the defense too? He just got an offer from Princeton, so they are loaded.
They are. They've got Miles Tallies there, and they've got Liam Johnson, Cooper Kim, and Jeremiah Trotter Jr., which we know is the son of the former Eagles linebacker. So they're very good at the linebacker spot. Liam Johnson, Cooper Kim, Jeremiah Talley, and Miles Talley, who played. So all those guys got experience last year. Trotter was as a freshman, but didn't actually start, but he would come in a lot. So that's where they're really solid in the linebacking spot, in addition to their offense.
Yeah, that's a whole new, obviously the playoff scenarios and how they've changed up really requires, a little bit different evaluation of, teams that are going to meet in the state semifinals this year. I know that's been very interesting for us guys here in District 3 now. We're having to keep track of all the guys in District 1 a lot closer now. That's not so bad because it's only 45 minutes away, but my gosh, the teams that you've got to keep track of there, Rick, I mean, that's, kind of crazy.
Yeah, that will be a new experience, and that's when I'll lean on Billy and others, Billy Splain and others, when it comes time, if they have to play District 7 or whoever else from that neck of the woods, so that will be a different thing. But, I mean, I don't know, you guys seen it. I mean, I see Coatesville, St. Joe's Prep final come December, 9th or whatever in Hershey, unless you tell me that there are some contenders, in District 7, which I'm sure there could be. I'm sure there's some very good teams, but I see those two teams like on a collision course to play in the final. That is St. Joe's Prep and Coatesville I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty. I got to see Coatesville against Harrisburg the first week. I mean, I know that Darryl has got a lot of connections down in the Coatesville area. It is pretty difficult for me to see, that they're not on a collision course for a state championship game. Garrett,
right.
What do you think?
I mean, you have Harrisburg still out there. Again, they could possibly meet again. Mayon Township, we can't overlook them. We can't overlook Central Dauphin. Can't overlook Wilson, because, again, once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. And 6A, they have more teams in the playoffs. So you never can count anybody out, but the way they're playing now, the way they're built up, they're very deep. Like I talked about week 1 on defense, they have starters that have been there 2 or 3 years. So they're going to be able to do a lot of different things on defense. They're very well coached. So it's going to be interesting. Like I said, and if they do get to that game, they got to think about what happened this past year. They were up 28-10 on St. Joe's and had a game, and just the next thing you know, it's 53-49. So that's a game they would like to have back. But again, they can't look past Downingtown West. They can't look past Downingtown East, because both of those are historic programs too. And I think East also has a state championship. I know it was a while ago, but can't overlook those programs. So they got to go week by week. The same thing as St. Joe's.
It goes so far back that it's Downingtown in 1995. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Before the split. But those two teams are looking very good. And Downingtown West, which was supposed to be a year away, is 5-0, and keep an eye on them, that they actually maybe might get the better of Downingtown East, or could contend with Coatesville, because they have a very good quarterback, like a Division I prospect in Will Howard, who's thrown for close to 1,200 yards. They've got Tyreek Lewis, which is a junior running back that's looking very good, and they've got a strong offensive line that's like junior laden, but so they're supposed to be a year away. But right now, the way they're playing, and they handled Neshaminy easily at home on a Saturday night earlier, I guess in week 2 or 3. So Downingtown West is a team to definitely keep an eye on. East has gotten the better of them in recent history, but I mean, that's going to be a great matchup. But then so too is you mentioned, now that we're getting into league play, that's what it's not this week, but I think next week. I mean, that's all those games should be
That's
good.
right.
I mean, Coatesville will be favored, granted, but Coatesville versus Downingtown East, Coatesville versus Downingtown West, and then West plays East, of course, in the Battle of the Brandywine. So we are, as you mentioned at the top of the segment, that we're getting to the nitty gritty now on the league season. Down here is really all beginning with the Catholic League Red. We've had the Central League and the Catholic League Blue and the Pioneer Conference already begin, and of course the Suburban one has begun. But now it's time for the nitty gritty for everybody, I think, pretty much, down here.
Well, Rick, it's been an absolute pleasure having you this evening. Hopefully, as we get into the playoffs, we can get with you a little bit more to see how the playoff schedule is going to, shake out in your view. Like I said, I can't thank you enough. This is a real honor for us, and we appreciate you being here tonight on Fresh Set of Downs. Thanks a lot.
And
Thanks a lot.
I got to thank you too, Rick. I thanked you earlier when we were on the air. You were very instrumental in helping me put PA football news together this summer, helping me out with District 12. So I just want to thank you too, Rick. You do a great job down there, and I appreciate everything you do for our website.
Thanks a lot. You guys do a good job as well, and I enjoy reading or visiting and seeing your website. And good luck with the show. And thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Mike.
All
right, take care, guys.
Take care.
All right.
All right, very interesting, what Rick was talking about there. Maybe that, unheralded team down in, District 1 of Downingtown West. I was fortunate enough to see those guys week 1 against Perkiomen Valley, and he was absolutely right on. They're a very talented group of players. Maybe they thought that they were, 1 year away, but they sure have shown themselves to be worthy of taking on a Downingtown East and taking on a Coatesville there to see for a district championship down there. It's going to be a real dogfight, not only there, but obviously what he talked about on how St. Joe's now has basically got to go through the WPIAL, to get to Hershey as well. So what's your take on that whole new dynamic in the playoff structure, Billy?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I can't believe they actually pushed that through. I mean, I'm a big fan of. I'd like to see them remodel the entire playoff structure, and let's go with sections. Let's not try and go with this East-West thing. They kind of did it with 6A, but they blew it way out of proportion. Sent Philadelphia out to play a Pittsburgh school.
Yeah. Well, you're going to find a neutral site there. I mean, that's crazy.
It'll be a neutral site. It'll be somewhere in the center, but it's still crazy. It's kind of weird, but it is what it is. And I understand. Look, the PIAA has a tough job. The demographics are so difficult. We've talked about this, I think, in week 1 or week 2, how there's only like 6 or 9. I think I have 12 6A teams out in the West. So it's really difficult to actually have a true playoff, in the West. So I think they need to take a look at that and merge some of these other leagues together. I think the natural fit for me is to put District 3 with District 6 and 10 and 9 and bring that together in 6 and 5A because that's just where it's got to be.
It wasn't.
And it's a natural fit.
Wasn't long ago that it was that way. So I don't know why they changed, but I totally agree.
But again, the PIAA it's tough. It really is tough. Don't you agree, Darryl?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's hard to do. So.
All right. Well, you got a new set of rankings out here for PA football news, Billy. Why don't you? I don't know if Joe's got the graphic up there for us, but why don't you start with the 6A?
Well, 6A really didn't change much, did it?
That's why I figured start with that and go through it rather quickly there.
I mean, everybody wants to. That makes it easy. We got Coatesville and St. Joe's at the top, Pine Richland, State College. Down the road, this is all going to change, though. This is going to change. It could change this week. North Allegheny has a big game. So you never know. They play, I think, Peters, or I forget who they play, but they do have a big game this weekend. I'm sure they do. 5A. 5A got kind of mixed up a little bit there. Archbishop would get to move, they moved up a spot. Franklin Regional moved up a spot. And, we lost a big one in 5A. Pulling Warwick and Palmyra. Right at the top, Gateway, Penn Hills, Mannheim Central, and Springfield. They're just rolling. So not much of a change there, but
not much of a change, but quite honestly, it's really good to see Palmyra. A team that from District 3 here that really is always consistently at the top of the power rankings, and all they do is win games. Right. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how they perform down the road. Warwick, I think this is their second entry into it there. Their only loss was to, Mannheim Central. But like you said, Billy, a lot of this is all going to change.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right now I think there's 62 undefeated teams. And our website covers 5 games between undefeated teams. So we know there's going to be at least five fewer undefeated teams.
Wow. And in 4A, is there anything more to talk about other than, Berwick and Valley View 1-2?
Yeah. You've got Clearfield playing Bellefonte at 3 and 7.
Wow. Pretty amazing.
And we've got those games covered. We've got a crew going to the Bellefonte game, and myself, I'll be covering the Berwick and Valley View game. So those are 2 huge games. Big shakeup in 4A, though. With Burt Cox, we didn't punish them too much. They lost to Malvern Prep. I mean, most teams are going to lose to Malvern Prep. Boy, wouldn't you love to see those teams come into the PIAA, Darryl?
Yeah, that would be interesting. I thought maybe this would be the year, but I guess they're probably still a little bit away from that, making that happen.
Yeah, that would be cool. How about Milton Hershey there, gentlemen?
Hey, you know what? I saw something in that team during the Mid-Penn Media Day. They've got some size. They can sure put some points on the board. And not to confuse things anything, but hey, we're going to have them on our Friday Night Live Thursday edition, next week. So just keep an eye on the Twitter for that announcement.
Yeah, and I'll be joining the broadcast that week, gentlemen.
Amazing.
I'm excited about that.
And I think Milton Hershey, don't they play Bishop McDevitt down the road?
They do.
They do.
Yeah, I think that was one of the last games of the year. That's going to be interesting.
It is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And your
next week with Middletown is going to be interesting, too.
Oh, yeah.
That is really going to be a slugfest. And then on 3A, obviously you've had glowing accolades there for Aliquippa, and obviously they're number 1.
Yeah, but boy, look out for North Schuylkill.
Yeah.
Right? They got a football game coming up this weekend, too.
Yeah. And they're Jim Thorpe, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Our own Brian Tashinsky has the call for that game.
Yeah, it's going to be a whale of a game.
Hey, you guys do you know Jim Thorpe is the only team in the state that has not given up a point to date?
Oh, wow.
They've not given up a point?
Not 1 point to date.
That is crazy. That is amazing.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing.
And 5 shutouts. That's quite an accomplishment. But there was a big shakeup in 3A also. We Sharon, every year I think they're going to do good, and boy, they just can't seem to get it put together. Bald Eagle, North Schuylkill, they all move up. North Schuylkill is a good team, and they are playing some good football. So when they meet up with Jim Thorpe, boy, that's going to be a Donnybrook.
Yeah.
Grove City looks really good, guys. They've got a wideout. He's Steve Lutz. He is the son of Coach Sean Lutz up at Slippery Rock, and that kid can go up and get the ball. He's a great receiver.
Wow.
Excuse me. Let's move on to Southern Columbia with their 500. They're heading to 501. Wilmington rolling along. Shady Side. Shady Side is a very, very good team. And I was just apparently our scoring stats are wrong. Midwest did score a touchdown, so
wow.
there are no scoreless teams. So we'll have to correct that in our database.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I think it's about time we maybe start looking ahead at some of the big games coming up this week. And, gosh, for you, Billy, there's nothing bigger than, I guess you're going home to watch Berwick and Valley View fight it out.
Yeah, that's my alma mater. Berwick, the year I graduated, was the first team that was undefeated for George Curry. The Bulldogs are back. They're playing good football, but you cannot discount Valley View. That is a team that is a team. They don't have any individuals that do anything special. They just have a team that wins, and they're strong. Their running game is very strong. Their defense, very good against the pass. So I'm looking forward to going to Berwick and covering that game. Well, that's going to be a great game. Number 1 versus number 2.
Wow. Well, a feature game that always we have down here in District 3, and Joe's familiar with this. We touched on this a little earlier, but Manheim Township, who's in our top 10, hosting Wilson. This has determined the Lancaster-Lebanon League Section 1 title for I don't know how many years in a row. Right. The winner of this game. What do you got? What's your take on that one, Joe?
Well, the biggest thing for Wilson right now is, are they going to be healthy? They get to go up against this township team that, I'll continue to say it, I felt like they were going to be incredibly strong this year, but they're even better than I anticipated. So will the Bulldogs have some of their players back? For certain, Nick Johnson's not going to be returning, their two-way starter, linebacker, tight end. They'll also most likely be out without Avanti Lockhart, who is a linebacker, running back, and their punter.
How long is he going to be out?
At least this week. Quite possibly next week against Hempfield during the Gridiron Classic. I think he's keying in on Warwick the following week to return from that. Johnson likely out until playoffs if Wilson would make it there. So it's going to be a slightly depleted Bulldog team traveling again, like we mentioned earlier, to Neffsville for the third time in 11 months, playing a team that beat them twice last year. And actually I saw via Mike Drago of the Red and Eagle that in modern Wilson history, which he says is when John Gursky came in '64, only 2 teams have ever beaten Wilson twice in a year. First team to do it was Mifflin in 2006, and the second was Manheim Township last year.
Wow.
So, it's going to be a great game. Manheim Township at home, though, it's tough to pick against them, and they are hitting on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be another feature game from District 3. Darryl, Central Dauphin hosting Harrisburg. I mean, we saw CD, and Harrisburg, quite honestly, is probably the quietest, really good team, in the state right now, because they took a little bit of a licking from Coatesville, but boy, they've sure looked tough ever since then.
Right. I think Everson now, coming out of training camp, he had a hamstring issue, was banged up a little bit, but he told me the other day he's feeling like he's in great shape. Each week that goes by, he feels better and better. He's relying on his guys to make plays. So he's dropping back, hitting guys when they're open, and when they're not, he's taking off running. So Central Dauphin, they're a solid team. If Harrisburg can kind of do what Manheim Township did, I think they will have the upper hand, but it's going to be a tough physical game. It's not going to be easy to run against Central Dauphin. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this game if Central Dauphin can contain Everson. But if not, he's going to run wild. I mean, he's been averaging almost 400-something yards a game, total offense. So it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I was going to say, Bruce, you said they were quiet. Kane Everson isn't very quiet.
Yeah.
He's an explosion every week.
Yeah, and out west, Billy, I mean, usually every year one of the highlights in the WPIAL is Pine Richland and Pittsburgh Central Catholic. What are your thoughts on that one?
My thoughts on that one are I don't think Central Catholic is as strong as they usually are. I like Pine Richland in a runaway.
Wow.
I don't see the strength that I thought we would see out of Central Catholic. I mean, they're winning by the skin of their teeth every week. So, I don't think that's going to be much of a game. And when we were talking about St. Joe's earlier, with Rick, we got to remember they got to go through some tough teams like State College is out here and Pine Richland out here. North Allegheny is killing it. I mean, they are hammering teams. Yeah, and they're playing good. They're playing good football. So, there's some good, strong 6A teams out this way.
Yeah, that's why I was asking about that whole new dynamic. I know that obviously for us District 3 guys, we always had our eye on the WPIAL. I mean, always did, because we knew that was the state semifinal. And for whatever reason, I mean, it's easy for us now in District 3 because we see all the District 1 stuff anyway because it's right here. But, wow, they just, it's almost like another world for really District 12 to have to go out and play the Western guys this year. That's why I asked the question. And another big game, obviously, you touched on it a little bit there, Billy, but the Jim Thorpe and North Schuylkill, anthracite league, quote unquote. It's now called the Schuylkill League, but that's going to be one heck of a battle. You touched on that. I mean, who do you like in that game, Billy?
I don't like either one of them. That's going to be a tough. That's going to be a hard-nosed, cold-cracking, old-school style football game, and that's the kind of football those two play. They just line up. I mean, according to I talked to Brian earlier today, who's going to be at that game. He of course he's a referee, and he did 2 games earlier this week on that field. And he said it was a mud pit. So with the rain we got today, I'll tell you what, it wouldn't be hard for me to make a right turn on Route 93 and head up to Jim Thorpe instead of going to Berwick, because that's going to be a good old-fashioned mud slogger game.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Who doesn't love that kind of football?
Yeah, another one, I'll tell you what, another one here in District 3, I mean, just 2 teams that just don't like each other. Cocalico and Manheim Central meet up. I mean, these guys, it's been for the Section 2 LL title for, just like, Manheim Township and Wilson, Cocalico and Manheim Central going at it. Was fortunate enough to see Manheim Central, a little bit earlier this year against Wilson. Cocalico, they took it on the chin for the first time last week against Manheim Township. So, I think both teams have a lot to prove, Darryl. What do you think about that game? Yeah, I mean, you're familiar with both teams.
Yeah, they're going to be very, very, very tough with that veer. But if you look a little bit in that game, Cocalico is throwing some wrinkles in. They're throwing the ball a little bit more than they normally do. So that's going to be a tough game. I was at the game when Man Central played Elizabethtown. I thought that'd be a little bit more, a little bit closer game. But Man Central looked good. They were solid. Again, 2 good, well-coached programs, and that game's up in Denver. So, it's going to be a great game. I think Manheim Central will be prepared. Cocalico will be prepared, and I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. And down in District 1, Springfield Delco playing Garnet Valley. I mean, wow. Like Billy was talking about, we're going to have a lot of undefeated teams kind of fall by the wayside beginning this week. That's going to be a real interesting game. I'm not really sure who's going to be favored in that one. I think that's a total toss-up. Billy, what do you think?
I like Delco in this one. They've got some good athletes, and they got this. I think they have some size up on the line too. I got to know their team. I met a whole bunch of them at the Lawrence First and Gold Camp this year, and they're big fans of our websites. And I really like the spirit that I watched a little bit of film on them the other day actually, and I try to watch film of every team we rank, and I do like their athleticism at Delco, and I can't believe I have them in our countdown, but they're playing good football.
Yeah, fantastic.
Right, and I think we got to be careful too with Coatesville knows with Garnet Valley out there, Springfield Delco, and North Penn. That's the team we haven't talked about yet. North Penn historically has been a giant in District 1.
Yeah.
So,
or a giant killer.
Yeah, or a giant killer. Coatesville knows they got to get past West, they got to get past East, and when they get into that District 1 playoff, that's a gauntlet.
I can't wait.
Yeah, that's a gauntlet out there. So North Penn, they were down last year. And believe me, with that coaching staff they have out there, that's unacceptable out there. And if they get a home game, or they're playing a District 1 championship on their field, that will be tough to beat. I think it's something ridiculous, 23 straight wins on that field or something. So we got to keep an eye out there, especially in District 1. It's going to be very tough when we get to the playoffs.
Right. York High has a big conference matchup with Dallastown this week, too. I think that's going to be say a lot or have a lot to say with who's coming out of York Adams, and who, quite honestly, could be a favorite for the District 3 5A title.
Right. And you got those two monster running backs for both teams. So I think DeJour Stewart has an opportunity. We were talking about breaking records, Billy, earlier. I think DeJour, he might have a chance to get the all-time record in York. I was looking at it a couple weeks ago. He's on pace to break that. I mean, destroyed it. I think he's already at 23 touchdowns at 5 games. And almost, I think he's close to 2,000 yards, like 1,700 or something.
It's
1,500.
Pinball numbers.
Yeah, and then they have a running back over at Dallastown that's unbelievable, too. Right. So it's going to be a very, 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 very good game. And it'd be interesting to see what running back takes over the game.
Yeah.
Talking about 2,000 yards, we haven't played week 6 yet.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, but and the thing is, he's with DeJour, he's running through tackles, he's running through guys. I mean, he's just making guys miss. So it's not like they just open it up and just letting them run without a touch. He's fighting for yards, and
right.
I mean, so. Great running back. The running back at Dallastown is unbelievable also. So I think it's going to be a very good game.
Well,
yeah, me too. Out west, let's go out west, Bruce. Blackhawk and South Fayette. That's going to go a long way in determining that classification out there, because Blackhawks playing some really, really inspired and good football, and South Fayette, of course, they're always a big favorite. Our AJ Whitfield, he's covered that game, so. We've got some good games covered.
How many games are we covering this week, Billy?
We are covering
50, 60
games this week. Sure. 49.
Amazing, and we've got
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 battles of unbeatens covered.
And we've got a great live matchup. Friday Night Live this week will be Conrad Weiser and Exeter. This is going to go a long way to determine the Berks Section 1 title. And that's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to that. Myself, Cary Moyer, our friends at Alvernia University, with all the great work that they do in bringing these games. And, quickly we'll announce, what we've got the following week there, too. We don't like to confuse people or get too far ahead. But don't forget to check us out on Friday Night Live. Going to have a great battle. Conrad Weiser is one of the top ranked teams in 4A in District 3. And Exeter, just right on the cusp, wanting to get into the playoff hunt. So that's about all we've had for this week. I think them getting the trivia going here in the background kind of signals the fact that our time is done here tonight. Right. But Billy, a great job as always. I mean, your insight not only on the WPIAL, but really across the state. I mean, just fantastic. Darryl, terrific job tonight. We had a lot of fun. And, of course, the accolades to Mr. Mays over there for adding all the extra bells and whistles of video highlights during the recaps. I mean, that's just too good, man. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. Next week, I'm going to get some guys to point out from Darryl, and when he brings them up, we're throwing DeJour Stewart highlights in there. We got to get that.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
That's it. Like, before you go, let's give a quick shout out to some of the smaller districts. District 5, we have 5-0 Muncie, or District 4, 5-0 Muncie and 5-0 Canton are playing. So we can't forget the smaller districts like District 4. And down in District 5, 2 of our ranked teams, Conemaugh Valley and Shade, Phil Myers is covering those games. So we've got some monster games. Phil, and I can't say good enough. You do a great job on this show, Bruce, and you're handing out the accolades, and I'm going to hand one out to you. You've got the personality to make something like this happen, buddy. You do a great job every week.
Yep. Well, we just have fun. I mean, like we do the games. We just do it as a fan and just try and inform the fans on what we think they need to know going into this week of high school football. So for everybody here at Fresh Set of Downs, I mean, the cast just keeps growing, but we appreciate everybody checking in. And don't forget, Joe, we got to do this on a podcast too this week, or? Yeah,
I do. I put up the audio after I strip it down, try to clean it up a little bit. I do put it up on, we have a site on anchor.fm/Fresh Set of Downs. There's a link on pafootballnews.com. And you can search it on your favorite podcatcher like Apple Podcasts, Google Play. There's a whole bunch of them. Basically, anywhere you can get the audio, we're on there. So check it out.
Yeah, and I think Billy is archiving the video on YouTube as well. So, gosh, we're all over the place. I don't know. But anyway, hey, Billy, thanks for everything. Until next week, this is Bruce Badgley for Fresh Set of Downs. See you next week.
The clock is run out on this episode of PAFootballNews.com's Fresh Set of Downs. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at PAFootballNews, at Badgley Bruce, at Double D Stokes 124, and at Coach Joe Mays. We'll return once again when those Friday night lights are ready to get switched back on.